broken home. I gave you all the bricks that I own and know. I'm letting go, I'm breaking these walls down, breaking these walls down. If you want adventure, then fly to home. But if you wanna travel, then go alone. Yeah, what's the point in us if I never know? Yeah, if you're gonna leave, I'ma let you go. I'm tired of the pain. Go away. I'm tired of yesterday. Fada, fada. I fell where my demons dwell. My own little nightmare, I call it hell. Oh well, it's time to get back up. Climbing and climbing, I'm done with this ride, is what I tell myself, so I could feel something else. Yeah, I guess I had my bad days, but it doesn't mean I lost my style. Darling, where were you when my heart was on the ground? I thought time would prove that you would stick around. I guess time stands still, a king without his crown. Now I'm breaking, you're faking, girl. You never made a sound. I'm tired of the pain. Go away. I'm tired of yesterday. Fada, fada.
There's not a single day that passes without you on my mind. Not even 1 minute can end up before you come around. I yearn for the days when I see your face here before me. I long for the times you held me in your arms. Whoa. How I wish that you were here to give me everything I want. But I know that life's unfair and we can't always have it all. Whoa, whoa, I wish that you were here. Whoa, whoa, I wish that you were here. I wish that you were here. I wish that you were here.
In my head there's a hole I can't control. That's where my demons get in. And it's taken me years, now it is clear. My shadow is my only twin. And the ones that love me the most are the ones that up and ghost. And I got a feeling that the reason that they go in my stomach, I feel that pit toughen up, but I scared of shit. And when I lay my head, it shows. Yeah, I got demons on the side of my bed. I close my eyes and they get in my head. So stay with me, my remedy. I never sleep, but with you I can get some rest. Yeah, I got demons on the side of my bed. I close my eyes and they get in my head. So stay with me, my remedy. I never sleep, but with you I can get some rest. Here way, I waste away the rest of me, the best of me. So patiently you came to see the side of me. It only bleed. Yeah, they wanna come and play. They could always get the way. You can be my hideaway. You can take the knife away. I know they my innocent. Grab my head and hold my breath. Tear me down, ain't nothing left. Shadows on the other. And the ones that love me the most are the ones that up and ghost. And I got a feeling that the reason that they go in my stomach, I feel that pit toughen up, but I scared of shit. And when I lay my head, it shows. Yeah, I got demons on the side of my bed. I close my eyes and they get in my head. So stay with me, my remedy. I never sleep, but with you I can get some rest. Yeah, I got demons on the side of my bed. I close my eyes and they get in my head. So stay with me, my remedy. I never sleep, but with you I can get some rest. Yeah. In my head there's a hole I can't control. That's when my demons get in. And it's taken me years, now it is clear. My shadow is my only twin. Every time you cry, feelings that I hide, further than a hole, glitter is so gold. Why do we deny what we feel inside? It's freezing my soul.
but it's not okay. Whatever, can I walk away? Oh yeah. Can still see your face, so tell me what to do, 'cause I can't find a way. Baby, please just tell me if I'm, tell me if I'm, tell me if I'm fine. Tell me if I'm, tell me if I'm, tell me if I'm, baby, please just tell me if I'm fine. Just tell me if I'm fine. I like it, but it's not okay. Whatever, can I walk away? Oh yeah. I love you too, don't love me back. I can't stand this feeling inside my mind. Baby, please just tell me if I'm fine. Please just tell me if I'm fine.
Are we good? Are we good? Are we good? Are we good? For some reason, my audio capture was out. Sorry about that. And I've just gone blurry. Isn't that perfect? But welcome everyone. I hope you can hear me properly. Welcome to this new episode of Inside Fnatic's Brush. A blurry start to the podcast. We wouldn't have it any other way. Let me just adjust a few things here. Welcome. Week 6 of Summer Split, and what a banger that was. Another win against G2. Some surprising wins from actually other teams, in particular SK, which we will talk about this week. And some very funny behind the scenes videos, especially more shipping of the upset Hilly Sangju or the Hilly Setju, however you want to call it, and just some very, very funny moments here. Just makes you love the team even more, doesn't it? But just a quick overview of what we're going to cover for today's episode, starting with the LEC. Obviously we're going to go over SK 2-0 week, quite surprising, against Mad Lions and XL. And XL actually kind of disappointing. Big expectations from them last week, hoping that they would actually go 2-0 and continue their potential run for playoffs. Now that they look a bit more structured, unfortunately another 0-2 week for them. We'll go through the question of the day. If you guys follow the Twitter or are on the Discord or even on Fnatic Reddit, you will have seen the question. I've asked which one of 4 games do you think is maybe the most interesting or the most impactful for week 7? I'll go over you guys' responses. Thank you for everyone who participated, by the way. Fnatic, we're continuing the win streak with 2 big games against G2 and Astralis. Really, really insane performances from the boys again. Gonna be talking about this. And obviously going over week 7 predictions. Awesome. Let's get us started. Actually, before that, just remembering. I can't believe it. I've been talking empty for all this time. Yeah. I forget that when I'm changing scenes. Yeah, I see you guys adding me on Discord. Yeah. Okay, so it seems that my what do you call it? My Streamlabs has trolled me and has removed my audio input for every scene. So I'm gonna basically try to remind myself every time I switch scene to have to add the audio input capture. Sorry about that, guys. Gonna try to to repeat everything I've just said. So I just need a bit of air coming. It's super hot where I am right now. Need a bit of a drink, sponsored by Fnatic. Thank you very much. Yeah, sorry about that. Just a quick resume on that one. So top of the standings still the same. We have Fnatic and Rogue. Middle of the pack, Misfits actually gets third now, thanks to their week, and Mad Lions kind of hurting a hurdle there with their loss against SK. G2 is still fighting to get into that top four, that winners bracket, and then you have that bundle of getting that final place, that final playoff spot with Astralis, Vitality, SK, and Excel. SK has actually bumped themselves into that sort of miracle run status with a 2-0 week, which we'll be talking about, and Schalke all the way at the bottom. Yeah, I hope you guys can hear me now. I think everything should be fine. But yeah, what was gonna say? So yeah, actually let's start talking about SK. Great 2-0 week from them. They managed to take a game over Mad Lions. Now we have heard that Mad Lions is actually kind of struggling right now for the past few weeks. Beginning of the split already, they had to stay in quarantine coming back from MSI. I believe that someone in their staff got infected, so they had to lengthen their stay in quarantine. Now I believe that them getting a stage game would bring them back into that sort of structure that they like. Last time, obviously they weren't on a stage game. I believe that was finals, and we know what happened there. But they're obviously much better when they're next to each other. Stage game is obviously a different environment, but surprisingly, SK took the game on that one. Let me see if I can. I had the game in front of me just a while ago, but yeah, there's actually a few things to highlight on that one. Is that sorry about that? There's SK actually playing in a more cohesive way, but for me personally, I was pleasantly surprised by Lilip. Lilip didn't necessarily have the best of games when he subbed in for Jesus, and I was not sold on this guy, to be very honest. And after he actually got a few games, we started seeing some improvement, but he has done some insane stuff this past weekend. One in particular was I don't know if you guys saw it. He actually played around the vision. There was a pink ward, so bot side jungle on blue side. He manages to go in that small strip of shadow of a fog of war, flashes into the river brush, and then manages to get a gank on the mid lane. That is some Korean shit right here. Like, the fact that he noticed, or at least suggested that there would be vision at this place, and just placed perfectly around it. That is not something I expected from him. Galaxy Brain, 200 IQ gameplay. It was quite impressive. And after the really weak start, and especially him, I'm thinking in particular our game against them, where it felt like Lilith just kept getting caught left, right, and center, and he was the guy causing SK the game. It's a bit of a redemption situation for him, and definitely showcased a much higher level of play at this time. So yeah, that I was quite impressed by him. Very solid game against Excel as well. For me, I predicted Excel to win that one, and the way they won these games, right? There's a bit of back and forth in the early game, but what SK was missing is that there has been a lot of games where it felt like they were ahead, and they never really managed to capitalize. Like when they would enter the mid to late game, they would struggle to actually convert some of their leads, and they would completely stumble afterwards. So what I appreciated this time is that once they managed to get these leads, to get these good team fights, they actually managed to convert this into snowballing, map pressure, and it didn't just like stand there, wait for a team fight. Oh, we lost the team fight because there's better player on the enemy team, and we just lose by default from that principle. So great showing from SK this week. Definitely deserve their spot as one of the upcoming teams. We'll see now if they actually manage to get that final spot in playoffs. Is it just like a sort of standout week where they get a 2-0 and then they go back to their old form and head back bottom of the split? For this week, they have complicated games. They face who is it? G2 tomorrow, and then they face Fnatic on Saturday. So, top of the standing teams, we were quite dominant against them. I can't remember the game of G2 against SK, but G2 is playing much better recently, and they're fighting to get to that top of the bracket stage. So I doubt they're going to take that, in a sort of relaxed approach, and they're going to look to stop SK just to prove a point. So, yeah, let's see. And the other team, sorry, I wanted to talk about obviously was Misfits. Now, sorry about that. Some of you maybe might be surprised you're like Misfits, but they're kind of struggling. Compared to last week, actually they've improved. They came out last week of I believe 0-2 week, and they're finally back to a 2-0 week this time. Maybe not the biggest opposition, although first game was against XL. You could easily debate that XL was looking better going into week 6, right? I don't know if you guys agree with me on that one, but XL, with the addition obviously of Markun and Advien, looked a bit more structured. Nukeduck looked like the player he used to be a few years ago when he was like top mid laner, and even Kryze actually seemed like he was playing a bit better. But Misfits just played a strong game, even though it's like close until like the mid game. They managed to close it out, and they also had a solid game against Schalke, which was just a complete stomp. Schalke just dropping, really. Still questioning the Kire move, setting himself as one of the worst junglers of the split. But that's like a whole other conversation. So Misfits, who had dropped a few places, dropped to 4th, I believe, last week. Now back to 3rd, a bit more solid for them to stay in that position, because I believe they had not made playoffs in spring, right? So they don't have championship points, so they need as much as possible to get that place in the standings. So it's definitely going to be complicated for them, and every win's definitely going to count as they move on forward with their next games. Next week they're looking at Vitality and G2, so potentially a 1-1 week. Obviously G2 Misfits being the game of the week here, last game on Saturday. Last time Misfits won on bad decision making from G2 that just literally cost them the game while being 10k ahead. So that's the thing. G2 is able to be 10k ahead against Misfits. So what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do this time? Are they gonna change their game plan? Are they gonna change their draft? Are we gonna have a different outcome, or is G2 gonna continue their sort of growth that they're having recently and have a strong game against SK, have a strong game against Misfits, look for that 2-0, secure a place in the top 4? Who knows? But in any case, very good week for Misfits. SK and Misfits scoring a 2-0 week. Congrats to them. Now, on the teams that aren't doing so well. First, Mad Lions. So you're going to tell me about Mad Scott. Mad Lions went 1-1. Yes, they did. But they almost actually went 0-2. For those who watched, or those who haven't watched, I should say, their game against Vitality, they were that close to losing. Vitality was absolutely smashing them. And after complete back and forth, it happened that Mad Lions had the final say in this one. But the problem with Vitality is that if Selfmade doesn't absolutely 1v9 the game, then nothing's going to happen pretty much. Like, they're always going to struggle. And that's what was happening in their game against Mad Lions for Vitality. Selfmade gets Xin Sao, a big carry jungler who's pretty much picked and banned. If not 100%, it has to be really, really close to that number. And he was smashing it. If I'm not mistaken, there's one point in mic check where he's literally hands up, just letting Xin auto attack because he's like, this champion is so busted, there's nothing for me to do. He's like this. And despite that, they're not able to win the game. Now, even Litter on his Sylas wasn't able to take over. It was really sad to see. Again, as there's a Lulu top lane because they're playing Gwen. I understand it's a counter pick and you're playing to the meta. I just don't find it that efficient. Now, I'm no analyst, I'm not a drafter, I'm not a coach, absolutely, but I've seen more impact if you pick stuff like a set, I don't know, a more, like even a Camille, who gets out traded most of the time but can have more impact during team fights than something like a Lulu, which I don't know. It's not a good split pusher. There's I don't know. There's the impact isn't there for me. So yeah, Mad Lions not looking too great. They're one game away from being in that losers bracket, 4th place. Next week's game facing Astralis and Rogue. Could be another 1-1 week. Could be maybe a 0-2 week actually for them if you think about it. If Astralis decides to pop off, because they're a very unpredictable team. So, and Mad Lions, like, if they're still feeling that fatigue, if they're not at their top form, they could get surprised. So it's going to be a difficult one for them. I don't expect them to win against Rogue. Rogue is looking quite in form. You know, you can talk about the stomp they had against G2, but from there, very solid. Basically, the sort of 101 team you want to follow if you want to play correct League of Legends, at least in EU. So we might see Mad Lions again next to that red arrow next week. So good luck, and I really hope we see them at a top form because they're a fun team. They're quite competitive. I like seeing personally Elyoya pop off. I think he's one of the most exciting rookies we've had since the beginning of the season. So I want to see him do more, and I would hate that. Well, I would hate that he actually doesn't get a chance to make Worlds personally. We've seen what he's able to do at MSI, and I think it would be so much fun to actually see him at Worlds against more international teams and see if he can continue to pop off. That's my personal wish. So we will see. There's still a few weeks to go until we actually get to playoffs. So even before talking about Worlds in that case, but yeah, that's just me kind of predicting. Let's talk about our last team, who's on the sort of downwards trend. It's actually Excel. Excel is on the 0-4 streak now. I was going to sort of put aside their 0-2 from 2 weeks ago when they lost against Fnatic and who was it they lost against? Was it Mad Lions? Yeah, because those were very, very close games. And Excel looked amazing playing them. So I was like, they lost, but holy crap, they actually look so competitive, and they look like clear like 6 place. Like they look like the team that's going to grab that 6th spot. Now they've just gone into a 0-2 week, losing against Misfits, who was kind of struggling coming out of a 0-2 week. Still quite competitive, but I was hoping that the sort of resurgence from Excel would maybe take over Misfits and create a surprise. And it was like the momentum that they were getting from adding Markunen at the end would help them grab those important wins. They didn't win against Misfits, but most importantly, they did not win against SK, who has been the punching bag of Summer Split so far. So losing against Misfits, sure. Losing against SK, I think that's a crucial game on those last few weeks that they had to win for me. Like, they had to. So they're in a difficult position right now because it could have been within that joint 6th spot with Astralis and Vitality. Instead, they're a win away from actually being in that joint 6 bundle, and they're having to fight against SK. On top of that, their schedule isn't getting easier. Now, week 7 is kind of soft. They're going against Schalke. Again, they're the ones who are at the bottom now, the 10th. And they're going against Vitality. Vitality has shown some strength against Mad Lions. They're kind of coin flips. Sometimes they actually win the game. Sometimes, well, Selfmade has not carried to 100%. So, GG, you lose because your team's not good enough to win. So, what can you do? But I'm more, looking into their week 8, where they're facing Astralis, Rogue, and G2, where it's going to be very, very difficult for them to get there. So, I'm actually very disappointed if Excel doesn't make it, because I feel bad for Markunen at the end. Although Markunen at the end have made some mistakes this past weekend, which I think cost the game for Excel in part. Advien got caught sort of roaming and gave some advantages when it shouldn't have been the case. So I hope they clean up a little bit as they go forward and into week 7, but their schedule is very, very complicated compared to the other teams they're competing against to get that 6th spot. So I feel like it's another split without playoffs for Excel. So yeah, it's a bit sad. It's a bit sad on that one. Why is Fnatic not first? Well, that's a good question. They should be. They should be for alphabetical reasons, and they should be for the head-to-head. But that's just a screenshot from LoL Esports, so I don't know how they structure it. I'm trying to see if there's a logic from the other tied teams, but doesn't seem to be. I don't know. It is what it is. But yeah, that's about it for the LEC overview for week 6, and let's jump in. Yeah, thank you for whoever pinged me again. Yeah. I'm back. No. So for people who are joining in, I got trolled by Streamlabs, so I need to remember to add the audio on each scene. Yeah, don't worry. Esports bias. Rogue got there first, but for all intents and purposes, we were first together with Rogue. I mean, yeah, it's for what it's worth, we're tied first. We're first head to head. I'm gonna talk about a bit more in this segment about the importance of our placement. But yeah, so what I was saying while I was sort of self-muted is that G2 versus Misfits is the game of the week. So obviously the scheduling is done in advance. So the game of the week happens to be, I believe, if not if not all the time, at least most of the time, the last game of the week. So the last game on Saturday. So I don't think if they follow that logic that they can really adapt on the context of the games. So um, I what I've been seeing. So I made a poll on the IFB podcast Twitter, on Reddit, and other places. People have voted in the majority. The Fnatic versus Rogue game. Obviously, because I've been asking mostly Fnatic communities, I should have seen that happening. But yeah, it makes sense, right? That this would be technically the match of the week. It just happens that I think G2, especially with their dominant streak on the past few seasons, and the fact that they've added Reckless, are probably the team with the most followers right now within the league. So they get a bit more of that spotlight. Absolutely normal. If you're LoL esports, you're looking to maximize your branding, your viewership. But with that said, there's for me personally, I think there's arguments for each game. So if we start with the Fnatic Rogue game, obviously game for first place. Rogue looking really good. Fnatic looking absolutely crazy. Has showcased that they can come back from deficits and literally being invaded on their Nexus. And Rogue just showing how well structured of a team they are with strength on every lane. Probably have the best jungler in the league right now with Inspired, who's just free to play whatever he was and who's pathing in a very, very smart way. So that's what you guys voted and the majority of being your sort of game of the week, of the game the most impactful, obviously. I've seen a few posts of people talking about championship points impacting the seeding. So for you guys who don't necessarily know, is that for summer you actually get championship points before playoffs are completed. So within your regular season standings. Now Fnatic, having ended 5th, I believe they only have 20 points, which is very, very low. So if the regular season ends and Fnatic is still first, it will actually be complicated for Fnatic to be first in the playoffs in terms of seeding, right? So I'm actually asking if probably the best position they can get is third. I'm not even sure they could actually even get second. It's really going to depend on how Mad Lions and G2 seed, and therefore the games that Misfits have. But there's very little chance that that Fnatic actually is the team to select their opponent, as is tradition when you end first seeding for playoffs. But still, very important game. I just think to see the strengths, not only to see how good Rogue actually is, and how much Fnatic can sort of posture for that first place and really be alone at the top number one spot. G2 Misfits game of the week, also sort of return game from the absolute bonkers Elder play from Misfits and G2 losing a 10k advantage, right? which made them continue in sort of that loss streak that they had a few weeks ago. Um, so it's still going to be an interesting game. I think G2 is going to want their revenge. I still wanted to look a bit lower in the bracket. Obviously, Excel Vitality, they're one game away from each other, and within again that sort of bundle of teams that is fighting for that final spot for playoffs. So I still think it's interesting. It's an interesting game because not only is there that sort of playoff context, but at the same time you have Excel, who's looking at like an exciting team. There might be 0-4, but there's a lot of potential. And then you have Vitality, which is just like they decide when they want to win. There's so many games they should have won, and I don't know, this team is just like individuals within a team instead of actually being all together and trying to win. So they look sometimes almost like a solo queue team, to be honest. Like the way they roam, they play together, they make decisions. It's kind of weird. And then you have Rogue Mad Lions. That one's a bit of a sort of logical game, which is rematch of the finals. So it's always a bit hype, and the fact that also Rogue is fighting Fnatic and Mad Lions, so two big teams, to kind of stay in that top spot, actually, that number one spot. They have a bit of a challenge. So it's I think I I don't know if you guys have been on the Reddit thread or if you're even coming from Reddit originally. Some people were actually questioning why I would even ask this question, in the first place. Like, why would you come to a Fnatic fan page on Reddit and ask which game is the best when there's one game with Fnatic, so obviously they're going to vote for this one, and it's the game for first place. I agree. I completely agree. I still think there's an argument for the other games, right, for the reasons I've presented. So I don't know about you guys who are watching right now, if you're on that same sort of trend of like, it's definitely Fnatic versus Rogue. The other games are absolutely like pointless in comparison, or if you think that there's still some reason, some excitement for these other games. Someone's saying I think Rogue can get a 0-2 week. I mean, I don't expect them to lose against Mad Lions. I believe they won their first game against them, right? I'm not too sure, but I can't remember who Rogue lost against, actually. If anyone in the chat can help me on that one. When did they face each other? I'm trying to go back into the schedule here. Was it the first game? No. Rogue Vitality, Rogue Fnatic, Rogue Misfits, Rogue G2, Rogue Schalke, Rogue Astralis, Rogue Mad Lions. So they won their first game. Fnatic G2, and there's a third team they lost against because they're 10-3, right? So who else did they lose against? Bit of a pause champ, guys. Sorry about that. They did lose against G2 twice. Oh yeah, they lost against G2 twice. Yeah. Cool. Yep. Good one. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I don't expect them to lose against Mad Lions. I'd be really surprised if they lose against Mad Lions. Again, anything can happen in the circumstances of a best of one. I still find it really unlikely, to be honest. I'm personally kind of scared of our game against Rogue, especially the way the style of Fnatic has to play. So it's kind of like the very structured Rogue style versus the super brawly, all over the place, in your face Fnatic. So it's a clash of styles, but It's kind of a way to see who will prevent on that one. Like who's going to be the team whose style is going to take over. But yeah, as I mentioned, you guys were completely on board with the Fnatic versus Rogue, but I've seen some good discussions around, Excel Vitality also being an important game for that final spot. It's always interesting to have, if there's going to be obviously a sort of lower bracket team getting that sixth spot, that it is a competitive team, maybe within Excel, maybe within Astralis. So to see actually how Vitality show up despite not being so great. So and Rogue Mad Lions last season's final, G2 Misfits. I mean, actually, G2 Misfits. When I think about it, there's actually a bit more than just what do you call it? Than the sort of rematch from the crazy game, right? Because if you look at the standings currently for Misfits, so they're third, but most of all, G2 are fifth. So that means they are at that losers bracket for playoffs. Wait, actually, I'm talking nonsense right now because obviously there's championship points, but maybe if they get fifth, because they ended third. So they have like 80, 70 championship points, something like this. And if they get fifth, they'll get like 30. So they might just scrape top 4. But, yeah. So what does it need to happen for G2 to not make it? I think it's very hard for G2 to not make it because of the structure of the championship points. Actually, you know what? Just allow me to do a little bit of research here. So that is summer 2021 points. I need spring playoffs. There we go. Right, so G2 currently, actually G2 has 50 points. Right. Fnatic has 20 points. If G2 finishes 5th, they get 30 points. So they would have a grand total of 80 points. Well, I think G2 still makes playoff, but they might not make it into that top 4. It really depends on the other team's result, because if you look at it, Misfits wasn't in spring playoffs, so they have 0 points right now, right? And they can potentially look at getting 70 points if they stay at the 3rd place. So they would technically be below G2, right? If G2 still stays at a 5th place. Now, Mad Lions obviously have 90 points. If they stay around 4th, they get 50, so that's about 140. So they would be top 4. Fnatic is looking potentially at getting 120, so 140. So they would be top 4 as well, either below or underneath Mad Lions, really depends. Rogue would definitely be first. Either they stay first or they go to 2nd. They're looking at potentially 160 points. So I think they're in the best position to be first this in this playoffs bracket. I think there's very little circumstances in which G2 doesn't make it. I think if for G2 to not make it, they would literally need to not be top 6. Because I believe if you don't make top 6, that you lose all your points from spring. I'm not sure about it, but I think that's actually the case. So it would seeing like G2 how they've played recently, and they look like they have finally improved quite a bit. I would not. I don't feel like they're gonna suddenly fail. I just think they're actually gonna improve. Now, how much they improve, it really depends. If you're looking at their next few games, they're going against SK and Misfits, obviously, next week. But on the final week, they've got Schalke, Mad Lions, and XL. They have relatively easy games, so they could actually be in a top four position going. Sorry, at the end of the standings, at the end of the regular season. So I think it's very complicated with the format and with G2's recent form to actually not make it. If things get bad for G2, I just think they miss out on sort of winners bracket, so the top four. So that's about it. G2 and Misfits are good games to see if both teams are for real. I agree. I absolutely agree on that one. I think Misfits has shown some good level. You know, maybe a bit some inconsistencies, but I still think they're very competitive, despite the classic what do you call it? Sort of second half of the split curse that they've had. If you guys have seen the match of the week preview video from LEC, they actually mention it, where when they get into that second half, they kind of start to stumble and miss out on playoffs. So no, I think Misfits still playing well, and I think we're gonna see an actual like good game of the week. Maybe with not as much impact as Fnatic versus Rogue, but still, I think it's gonna be a fun one. With that said, let's move on the best part. I forgot again. Thank you for you guys pinging me. Yeah, yeah. God, I have always these hype intros every time, and I forget. I'm gonna sue Streamlabs. I swear to God. I swear to God. Is it working at least? Yeah, it's working. I see the little things moving. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, I was gonna talk about the Fnatic weekend. How much of a crazy weekend it was. Astralis NG2. Um, I feel so stupid about these same things. Yeah. Not much to say about the Astralis game, to be honest. It was pretty much over at 5 minutes. Bwipo getting close to a quadra kill. His Viego is just bonkers. It's too strong. It's literally too strong. 100% win rate. 5 games he's played on the Viego. He's not lost once. And he just has those MVP performances every time. Like that fight in the mid lane where they tried to kill Bwipo and Niski at all cost, and they just lost the game for free. Like there was obviously a lot of mistakes, like Zanzara going in too early, no waiting for the TPs to complete for White Knight and Magi Felix were coming in, and it basically felt like those sort of karate movies, you know, where they come in one after the other, they try to fight the guy, and and Bwipo basically is using a different weapon, just taking these different souls with Viego. It's like, Um, First I'm Viego, and now I'm Zinzao, and now I get to be Silas, and now I get to be Mundo. Niski played really well, putting the miasma at crucial points during those team fights. It was just a great like sort of 2 versus 3 versus 4. I mean, sure, Australia's messed up, but it was just a very, very well played team fight. Playing through ability cooldowns as well, and just skyrocketing Buepo's early game, where pretty much did what he wanted at the end. Very, very straightforward game. MVP for Buepo, as you would expect. Um, Again, showing how important he is um, with his role in the jungle. He's been fitting really well. Even with the sort of recent nerfs to Viego, he's still able to bring those type of performances. And the G2 game, in comparison, that there's so much to talk about on the G2 game. First, let's address the pauses. Okay, I know that's been a massive, massive debate, not only between fan bases, obviously, but pros have talked about it, casters have talked about it. I mean, I don't think there's much sense of me of like bringing my point of view of really what I think the impact of pauses really have. What I will say is that from a spectator point of view, the Everfrost was really hard to see. I personally replayed that segment 10 times, and I'm still having a hard time to find first of all, even just the code of the Everfrost, but even that sort of bar where the stun actually happens. And if you guys actually look carefully on the replay, you will see that um, Hillisang is actually still channeling. So we've had obviously comments from Niski and Hillisang of like how uh, the bug appeared on their screen. Niski was more like he didn't evaluate it properly, in the sense that he thought there was a bug of him just getting absolutely exploded, but he got condemned by Reckless. He gets belly bopped by Wunder, plus the Everfrost. So he gets stunned for 10 years, and he doesn't have time to press W to mitigate the damage. So he gets evaporated. Uh, Obviously, the big discussion, the big debate is if the pause didn't happen, G2 would have completely taken over the game. The game was over just after that one team fight. I think people need to watch the game a bit more than that. If you think the game was actually done after this, then you've basically switched off the game when the pause happened, because both teams made a lot of mistakes. Like G2, when they were ahead, almost made more mistakes, and they allowed Fnatic to get back into the game. Now, not only in that initial team fight where the pause happened, does Wunder re-engage onto the back lines, so on Adam and Upset, which is a big mistake because he allows Hillisang to headbutt him and basically get into the brush. I'm not even sure they managed to drop a ward, so G2 completely lose vision of Hillisang. They overstay. Offset does a great move where he rocket jumps, ulties, ignite from Hillisang, gets the kill on Wunder. They try to secure Dragon. Problem is, Mickey makes some really weird move, right? He tries to catch Adam, who's like not in a million years gonna get caught by a hook, right? Like you'd really need to outplay him for him to get hooked. gets hit by the Mundo Q, gets slowed. So you need to know when Fresh doesn't hit its Q. There's like a very long cooldown. So Upset is pretty much free to jump in, get the bomb on the Fresh, get a kill, and then threaten a reset onto the rest of G2, which was um, Lucian and Vayne, so Reckless and Caps. So that was the first mistake of like trying not to give back 2 kills, but just getting the Drake, resetting, getting the advantage, and maybe getting a bit more deeper vision, and that was it. And then another mistake that G2 makes is on the bot lane, where actually there's 2 things. There's our mistakes, which draws them on the top lane, where Bwipo gets caught out of position because he has to sequence his camps again, and Niski stays in the brush, gets absolutely caught. Had a very complicated early game, and they get 2 quick kills, they get a turret. Upset decides to stay bot lane, and as they reset the top and they try to get back division in their bot side jungle, they don't clear out Upset and Hylissang. Caps doesn't respect the fog of war, gets caught by Upset, who's then able to stay and get the turret. So massive goal advantage for Upset as playing a scaling champion with the Tristana. And then another mistake is when Wunder, for some reason, completely disrespects Niski, who's getting the tier 1 top turret, and not realizing that Hilly and Upset are still around, but should did I say Nixie? Upset and Hylissang are still around, and he jumps on them, and they get I believe there's a shutdown for Upset Tristana as well. So he's so far ahead. At the same time, Bwipo gets caught, and then they manage to catch Diana. So they manage to catch Yankos, and it goes into this insane brawl where again Adam, who basically, I mean, he got MVP. He did an amazing performance. I want to talk more about him after that sequence. But Niski gets an amazing flawless duet on Thresh and Vayne, and basically is back into the game. Just gets the double kill and becomes relevant again. Then it came down to that final team fight where Caps gets caught. Great catch by Hylissang, and Reckless tries to do the star play, flashes forward. PTSD from 2017 Twitch against Immortals, gets absolutely obliterated. I think he gets hit by a Q from Karthus, and she goes through the wall of pain, so she takes more damage. She gets hit by the infected cleaver, and what is it? Yeah, Upset basically 2-taps him, and that's the game. So, yeah, pauses, sure, completely changes momentum for both teams, can destabilize for some people. We have to be honest. Both teams made mistakes. It just happened that G2 made more mistakes. I don't necessarily think the pauses are what caused the mistakes. Maybe they didn't manage to snowball as much, but they made some macro mistakes for sure. And yeah, just want to talk about Adam. This guy has been massive for us. Like, I don't necessarily have any big expectations for him because I don't think we should put any pressure into a rookie who's coming in the middle of a season specifically. But my God, that Mundo game. I can't remember like a Mundo game where he basically looks like a hyper carry juggernaut season 5, you know. It's Adam went where he pleases, but he hit those Q every time. Like when Caps flashes over the wall to try to get the kill on Bwipo, and Adam chases him with the minion wave, he manages to bend that Q somehow, like to make sure Caps doesn't get away from him. Gets a double kill there, and also gets a no like a blind Q after that team fight on caps that helps us get the Baron, and it feels like he didn't miss one. Insane performance from Adam. Insane performance. Really, really glad of the level he's been showing for the team, and I'm really excited to see what he does against Odo Amne. Um, and even then, like the fact that he adds a champion like Mundo in his champion pool and he performs so well, I think that it's so important that beyond the sets and the Olafs and the more like bruiser carry champions, he's able to perform. I was gonna say like on a tank champ, but the way he plays this, it feels like another bruiser carry champion. It doesn't feel. It just happens he has a lot of HP and a lot of resistance, but apart from that, my God, amazing Adam, amazing. So happy about him. And actually, before I close this segment, I want to cover some questions that I was asked in the Reddit poll. Let me see if I can find it again. Let me see. I need to scroll down. Yeah, from user Tananino or Tananino. I don't know if it's like Portuguese, Brazilian, but two question. I have seen two things constantly thrown around in some podcasts and by some analysts. Adam's performance is being criticized. Fnatic's playstyle is also being questioned, as some have said there is little macro involved and it's just fight. So he thinks Adam's performance is being undervalued. He's performing much better than what we could have hoped for team's playstyle. For sure, we fight a lot. More control from Rogue, more skirmishes on our side. Yeah, it's. I mean, I haven't heard personally about people criticizing Adam's recent performances, but I know there was some critics about him joining Fnatic so early in his career. Some people thinking that SLT was the better rookie French top laner. Um, from what we're seeing right now obviously there's it's a team game, and it happens that Adam gets to play with Whipple, who is a great top laner and seems to be an even better jungler now, and is someone who's gonna shot call quite a bit and help his teammate. So he gets to play with Whipple, who's, as we've heard, gives him a lot of tips and advice on how to play the top lane and how to play with the team. So I think that's obviously a better environment and a better structure to grow than SLT, who maybe didn't have the chance to have this. But at the same time, it feels like Adam is more willing to be selfless and abandon his lane to help the map a bit more. So I think in that sense, while his individual stats are in the red when it comes to CS differential, XP differential, I think that definitely comes from the fact that he's willing to sacrifice a lot to make sure that his team is ahead, and then he'll manage to be relevant at the end of the game, and outplay if he needs to outplay. But in the recent games, he's been really solid for us. Again, this Mundo performance against G2, nonetheless, right? Whereas there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of circumstances involved. The fan base is clashing, going at each other. Old kings, new kings, these old narratives. So you have to go through all of this, obviously. But yeah, I obviously think Adam has a lot of elements on which he can improve on, and you can't expect anything crazy from him joining into summer. I think the performances he's showing so far are definitely, at least in my perspective, beyond expectations. He's been solid. He's been an absolute pillar for us, where it doesn't feel like if Adam doesn't get permacamped, then he's a liability, and we're playing 4v5. Like, it actually feels like we have 5 players in a team on the same wavelength, and Adam just came in and went into that new Fnatic mold, fit like a glove, and just for that, I think if we go beyond stats, the way Adam plays his lanes, I'm not a professional player. I can tell you more about that. I'm just telling in terms of team structure and what we're seeing from him. He's definitely filling that contract for me. When it comes to Fnatic's playstyle, it's a bit of the same answer, to be honest. Like, again, I'm not a professional. I can't analyze that much on a macro micro basis. I just try to listen to a lot of what casters, previous coaches who do like game analysis, what they have to say. Obviously, you guys might have seen Kedro going over the games. Like, he does a lot of game reviews, and it's actually interesting to grab some of the information there. There's Duke, who was former Vitality coach, who actually reviewed the G2 versus Fnatic game. It's in French, unfortunately, so not everyone can watch it. I'm lucky to understand French and speak it myself, so I got to watch it. And he did point out in that specific game that Fnatic do make a lot of macro mistakes. Now, I believe those macro mistakes are more or less impactful or more or less in quantity, depending on the games. I do feel obviously that Rogue is well more structured. They have better pace. Odoamne, spoke about it on the way they kind of play the game, and the fact that Fnatic is just, we're gonna come at you. We just happen to be a very good like team fighting team, and to be on the same wavelength. So I think that's our strength. But at the same time, I definitely think there's a lot we can clean up in terms of macro tempo as well. So I think while we're very good at skirmishing and being that aggressive team, being that team that tries to do the first moves on the map, I think we're still going to have to show some structure against Rogue. Maybe the fact that we're playing in a surprising way is what catches them, but I think they'll be a bit more prepared compared to our first week game against them. There's a lot more games for them to analyze and adapt to our playstyle. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on those questions. But thank you for submitting them. I don't know if you're watching right now, or if you will be watching on the VOD, but I appreciate you asking those questions. And yeah, guys, if you have questions, if you somehow want my opinion from some random guy doing a fan made podcast, please do. You can always leave them in the chat or on the Twitter, on the Reddit posts that I do. I'm always happy to have those conversations. And as well, if you guys want to come on the podcast, just tell me. Just tell me if you want to share your opinion. If you want to talk, there's no judgment. I know as much about the game as you guys do. So yeah, the invitation's always open. You can always come into the Fnatic Discord, and we can hear your magnificent voice. Last week we had Cone Julio, who participated. So you could be the next Cone Julio if you want to. But yeah, just gonna close. There we go. I'm quick on that one. As I'm gonna say, I'm just gonna close this podcast just by going over the last segments, going out over our predictions. This week, for day one, both myself and the community are on the same wavelength. Excel versus Schalke. Excel need to win their games, which are within their reach, if they still want to pretend for that playoff spot. Misfits, Vitality, top teams basically predicted to win. I feel like maybe the Mad Lions of Strauss could be the game where we get a surprise. Maybe the Vitality Misfits. Other than that, obviously the Fnatic Rogue, but that's like we're expecting both teams to be quite competitive, and they're at the same level. But in terms of surprise, maybe Vitality can take the game over Misfits. Maybe Astralis surprise Mad Lions, who's not had a great week last week. Who knows? But same predictions on both sides going into day 2 this time. Yeah, it's a bit of a sim situation, to be honest. We have Astralis versus Schalke. Schalke bottom of the table, not much expectations. Excel Vitality, I think that's the one where it's going to be very hard to predict. I predicted Excel more in the sense that I hope they win. I actually want them to win. I'm excited for this team. But I wouldn't be surprised if Vitality take the game. Rogue versus Mad, obviously Rogue top of the standings. Fnatic SK, I'm expecting a game maybe similar to the Astralis game. Maybe not as crushing in the early, but I'm expecting us to be very dominant. G2 Misfits, G2 is looking good, to be honest, and I think we will see them getting a 2-0 week and probably getting closer to that top 4 ranking. So yeah, that's about it for this week's podcast, guys. I don't know if you agree, disagree on those rankings, on those picks, but in any case, thank you for joining me. There's quite a bit of you today, so if there's any newcomers, thank you for joining in. I hope to see you on the next episode, and I hope you appreciate the format. Again, don't hesitate to leave in the comments if you think this podcast is absolutely garbage, if I should stop tomorrow, or if on the contrary you actually enjoy it and you want to see more. Hit me up on my podcast, on my Twitter at IFB Podcast, or on the title below. I hope I'm putting it on the right side. No, I think it's here. Right? Yeah. At MattScott _ if you want to chat, if you want to follow. I comment about LEC, I comment about Fnatic. I also make memes, so if you enjoy the occasional meme, I will try to provide it to you. In any case, enjoy the games this weekend. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week, and always Fnatic. Bye, guys.